You say that the history has shown repeatedly, whether in the Nepal, Peru or Philippines, the insurgencies often fought their hardest when they had the least left to lose. You think that current operations have done away with the entire top leadership?
Absolutely. In fact, the killing of Hidma in November was a very decisive point in our annihilation of the movement. Hidma was the man who was responsible for the Dantewada attack, where 74 CRPF Jawans were killed. He was the one responsible for the train, sabotage. So, and not just Hidma. In the last 2.5 years, 1,000 plus dreaded Naxal commanders have been killed. 4,000 have surrendered, and they are, somewhere in the process of rehabilitation, or they have been rehabilitated. So yes, I think it's a conclusive end to that movement. And you have to
Are
give
you
it
saying
to Modi
conclusive
government.
end? Because you also write early intellectual roots before the term existed, the post 1990 rights discourse and the shift to cities, and the writers and thinkers as Naxal narratives. I brought this point out in the book because no militancy, no armed struggle, no violent struggle exists without a thought ecosystem. Is that
Dr. Vinayak Sen was the brand ambassador of these people.
so? Do you think that has been taken care? That
Absolutely.
intellectual veneer.
Absolutely, the way Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam have been treated in the last 6 years is a lesson for all urban Naxals. Don't fantasize about balkanization. This country will remain the way it is. This country will only prosper and thrive. But the mentality of balkanization, the mentality of dreaming of Kashmir Azadi, the days when those would be normalized are long gone. So I think nationalism is something, a nationalist sentiment. In fact, if I may deviate slightly and come to the Bengal victory of BJP, if you ask me, one of the reasons for this massive victory is people's anger against illegal migration. People's anger against open threats and open intimidation threats being doled out by TMC leaders. The rejection of the Diamond Harbour model. So I think, people are more aligned to our nationalist sentiment, BJP's nationalist sentiment. That only explains why we have
Bengal
grown.
is a very rich and a diverse state. If it informed the Naxalist ideology, Charu Majumdar, it also shapes BJP's nationalism.
When Naxalism started in 1967, even though it was equally criminal, the objective was different. It was never meant to be an anti-India movement. It was a peasant protest movement. Yes, left kept hijacking it to turn it into the sinister anti-India movement eventually in 2004. And that coincided with the formation of one of the weakest governments, the UPA government, whose first accomplishment after coming to power was removing quota.
Do you know a quota or sort of a year of, I would say, truce that happened when Shivraj Patil was the Home Minister? Do you think that was
a semblance of a truce?
Do you think that was a historic blunder? That that time space where the security forces and Naxalites.
UPA era is full of historic blunders. Fact is that they failed considerably. They failed completely in terms of national security. They could never identify the magnitude of the threat which the Naxal movement posed.
All these ministers, they work under the rubric of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And Prime Minister Modi has talked extensively on the issue of tribals. We have the president who has a tribal background. She's a tribal herself. So, how do you think that the Prime Minister's own thought in terms of Vikasit Bharat and eradication of Naxalism,
in fact, there's a chapter in the book,
and
Prime
development
Minister,
in those rural areas have all come together?
In fact, there's a chapter in the book, Prime Minister Modi for Tribals. And in fact, because I come from a tribal area, Jamshedpur.
I've read the book. That is why I'm asking.
Because I have written the book, in fact, a trilogy on India's tribal heroes. I can tell you, Prime Minister's outreach to the tribal community has been phenomenal. Whether it is cultural integration, there was a parallel freedom movement which was being carried out, which was being executed by our tribal leaders, which never made it to our history pages. Today, we recognize that thread from 1855, not even 1855, from 1783. Tilka Majhi was the first known tribal freedom fighter. In fact, even before that, 1765, Raghunath Mahato had led a small movement in Purulia district. So from then on till 1947, there was a parallel tribal freedom movement which never got recognized. Prime Minister Modi gave them that due. When it comes to developmental objectives, if you look at Nal Se Jal Karyakram, maximum number of beneficiaries are from the tribal community. Swachh Bharat program, again, a significant percentage of the beneficiaries are from the tribal community. So all of these, and yes, the Aspirational Districts program of 2018, when 119 districts were identified and they were constantly monitored on several parameters to ensure there was a significant GDP rise over the next few years. You can't come across a prime minister. There has hardly been, I don't think there has ever been a prime minister so concerned about the tribals and so concerned about the upliftment of backward sections of society. So what Prime Minister Modi has done, both in terms of cultural renaissance of tribals and, for the developmental, goals of tribals, is something extraordinary, something phenomenal.